Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for CE approval process for CAI chapters. Today's program is going to focus on a new policy change that the CAMICB Board of Commissioners instituted with regard to the approval process for education programs to qualify for CMCA recertification purposes. Our guest today is Wendy Taylor. Wendy is a subject matter expert, longtime advocate for the continuing education of certified community association managers. She's a member of the CAMICB Board of Commissioners, as well as a member of the CAMICB CE Review Committee. Now, that committee is the one which is tasked with reviewing the course provider applications that are received every month that are accredited for CMCA recertification credits. I want to welcome all of the chapter executive directors, their boards of directors, and committee members to today's program. This has been a topic, as you all know, we've been talking about over the last couple of weeks. And while we're having this program, I invite you to ask questions on the questions poll that is on the right-hand side of your screen. We'll answer those questions as they appear on the screen, and which are relevant to the portion we are at in our program. We'll open it up in the last 15 minutes to question and answers, and we'll hopefully get to all of them. If we don't during the webinar, I promise we will get to them afterwards, as all of the questions are being collected and will be responded to as best we can. I also wanted to point out to you below the questions arrow on the screen is one called handouts. And in that section, there are 5 handouts, a PDF of today's presentation, and some other resources that we've provided that are available for download on the camicb.org website. That is a downloadable PDF of the Chapter CE course provider application, a sample template of the attendance roster, as well as a sample template of the certificate of attendance for those chapters who are interested in downloading with their logo, their contact information, and personalizing them and making them their own. So why this change? We've been going along here just fine. Everybody's been happy, and now all of a sudden we have to make this change that is, rightfully so, going to cause a little bit more work for our chapter executive directors and their staff. The reason for the change is that the way that the applications were being processed in the past was not in alignment. Was not in alignment with the board's policy. So because CAMICB is accredited by the National Commission for Certifying Agencies, which is a third-party certification body that makes sure that CAMICB's CMCA program is following its own policies, it became very important for us to make sure that all CE provider applications were being reviewed with the same set of standards as the applications received from business partners and vendors. So to not have this policy would be to jeopardize the accreditation of the program. And obviously that's not something that any of us is interested in. The CMCA has really become a benchmark for what certified community association managers strive for, and to jeopardize the program would just be unprofessional and just not responsible. So what we want to talk about a little bit today is also what the CMCA is. There is a little bit of confusion, we think, in the field with regard to the CMCA as a certification as opposed to a designation. The CMCA is a certified manager of community associations. The certification requires that candidates pass an exam that is, from a methodology and validity perspective, really dissected to make sure that it is measuring a body of knowledge in a specific area relevant to a profession. And that's why the NCCA accreditation is so important to the CMCA program. It really, it does what I just said. It validates it, and it makes it a certification that someone earns and is required to continue their education in an ever-changing field. So just wanted to also mention that the CE Review Committee is comprised of 5 subject matter experts. The committee will review all of the applications. I think that there might be some confusion with respect to what gets reviewed and what doesn't. And I just wanted to reassure everyone that all of the applications that are received are reviewed with the same level of detail, so as to not favor one over the other. The review of the coursework is it's best practice in the certification industry. It's what all certification bodies do. They need to make sure that the education that their certificates are getting is in line with what their industry knowledge needs to be. The CE Review Committee meets the second Wednesday of each month. The committee meets, the schedule committee is on the camicb.org website. Wendy is one of those committee members. I'm fairly new here at CAMICB, but Wendy has been around for a very, very long time. She is been very active on the board. She's also been very active on the review committee, and most of the subject matter experts on this review committee are in fact CAI faculty. So Wendy, I wanted you to join us today so you could talk a little bit with the chapter executive directors and their staff about what the committee looks for when it's reviewing course provider applications.
What we are looking for is a presentation that brings to the table a skill or a refresher of things that managers should know. What we are not looking for is, as an example, if we had a mold remediation application from a mold company, what we're looking for that to contain is how does a manager manage that process, what to look for, what are the best specs, what do they need to know to go in and manage a project, not what they need to know, as an example, to actually treat the mold themselves or know what chemicals we're going to turn to. We obviously want managers to know their limitations, but they need to know how to manage the process, not actually how to physically do the work, if that's clear.
Right. So what you're looking for is content that educates the manager about the process, doesn't teach the manager how to be a mold remediation specialist.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So then there is a fine line then there between too much detail and not enough detail, would you say?
I would say yes, that what we do look at is this something that really benefits you as the manager of a community that needs a service, and what it brings to the table. If you're getting a class on how to recharge an air conditioner, you don't need to know that. You just need to know where to go and what kind of specs you should have. So we don't want the classes that would be, as an example, to be recertified as a technician for mold remediation. We would want the course to focus on what does a manager need to know about the overall process. So okay. I guess that would be the difference. So just going to your recertification as a mold remediator really doesn't bring enough to the table as a manager.
Okay. And so does the committee assign the number of credit hours then, or is that something that the course provider should ask for?
Yeah, we prefer to look at it being asked. We don't really know how long. We know when the material would not be equal to 2 hours, but we ask that you make the request, and then if we have questions about the time, the staff will reach back to you and say, why is this take 3 hours? The material looks like you could cover it in an hour and a half.
Okay, all right. And so the application, the chapter application, as well as the application for business providers, asks for speaker bios. Why do you need to see speaker bios?
Well, we need to be able to look at the person who's doing the presentation and make sure that they are qualified to speak to the subject.
Okay.
Do they have a background in the industry? Are they, in fact, a subject matter expert in whatever they're presenting?
Right. So you don't want a guy who hangs drywall telling you how to clean a pool, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. And then some of the can you think of a time when you saw an application that that you and the committee just really said, this just won't work? Can you think of an instance like that?
There were in the history, there was a couple of examples that came in that were possibly fun classes to do at a get together for the chapter, but really didn't bring anything to the table.
Okay.
So they were more social rather than educational.
Got it.
Really have to be careful of that, since this certification is held as the licensing bar in some states, and we have to be cognizant of the review process for our certification as an entity.
Yeah. Excellent point. So so we want to talk about so what happens, I think I missed so when does the policy go into effect? Programs on the chapter calendars after June the 1st must be approved in order for CMCAs to get recertification credit. After the application, I'll tell you, I got more this morning. So far this month, just under 30 applications from chapters for their continuing education programs. So most of you already know what happens with the second bullet point. After you send in your application, it gets reviewed and you receive a notice of approval. That notice of approval is good for 2 years. So if you offer, just as an example, if you have a program that you do every single March on, Ides of March Day or whatever that is, then you know you're going to have it, and you have the same speakers every year. That program is certified for 2 years. It doesn't have to be resubmitted every time you want to present it. Okay. So one of the questions I had the opportunity to talk with a number of chapter executive directors at the CAI conference in May, and one of their big concerns was, how long does it take to get an application approved? It really, for those of you who have already submitted, you know that it doesn't take that long. The committee meets the second Wednesday of each month. They're reviewed, and then the notices of approval go out 2 to 3 business days after the committee meets. If you need it faster, you have a program. Many of you have had that come up recently because you have programs coming up here in the next couple of weeks. We can turn that over for you fairly easily. One of the reasons is because the chapter application is streamlined specifically for the chapters. When we sat down and looked at how we were going to fashion this application, it was clear that the CAI chapters did not need to have the level of instruction that business partners and vendors do. You all have been doing this for a very long time, and you understand your audience, and you understand what it is you're trying to provide, which is continuing education. So those applications are a lot easier to review because they are nice and compact, and they have got pretty much everything that we're looking for. So I want to talk a little bit about the applications, what to submit. There were some concerns about getting presentations in time from speakers and so forth. What is the most important is that the Chapter CE course provider application is signed and dated. There is an attestment on the bottom of the form that states that you would comply with the requirements of CAI for CMCA recertification credits. And it's not, you don't have to give away your firstborn, you don't have to lien your home, you just need to say that, we're going to follow the rules here as we understand it. So a signed, dated application is important. Also, as much information about the content as possible. If you have a flyer, if you have a brochure, a lot of chapters aren't doing those anymore because print is so expensive. But if you have an email promotion or a web page, or your program committee has provided an outline, you can submit that with the application, as long as it has as much information as you can possibly provide that is related to the education of community association managers. One of the big things I see with business partner applications, I don't see them so much with the Chapter CE, is the confusion between a community association manager and a property manager. I'm just going to throw that out there because that is one of the things that the review committee will look for. The application should also have the number of credit hours that you're requesting. The number of instruction hours is equal to the number of credit hours, and it has to be at least a 60-minute program. The approval is not given for half-hour programs or 15-minute programs. It has to be at least 1 hour, but it can be an hour and a half or 2.5 hours. Again, the presentations are helpful, but they are not necessary. And speaker bios should be just that. They should just be bios. They don't need to be resumes of people. So we have a question here. We do offer some soft education, dealing with difficult people, time management, etc. Will these be approved? Wendy, can you take that for us?
Yes, those are subjects that have been approved in the past. Definitely, those are things managers need to know. Here's an example of something that was on the line and we didn't approve it. It was a class that was submitted years ago for how to dress for success, and basically it talked about how professionals should have one black skirt and scarves to do this or that, and really we didn't feel that brought enough to the table for CEU credits. That would be something that's too soft, but yeah. Difficult people, isn't that what we do every day in this business?
Right, so dealing with difficult people, leadership skills,
that's exactly.
How to understand.
Those are all.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Okay, all right. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the questions. So so as I say, the speaker bios should be just that, just speaker bios, not a resume. So here again is another, this was actually cut and pasted from the bottom of the first page of the application. This is a checklist form, which speaks directly to a question that we got about the application. The application looks like it should be a form fillable, but it won't let me do that on my computer. Am I missing something, or should be filling these in by hand? I think depending on the browser you're using, and also the Adobe program you have, it depends on whether or not you would be able to fill these out. But I'll follow up with you afterwards, Kim, so that we can try to work on this for you, because it is easier if you can just fill those out online. We've also included in the application some helpful hints. These are just some things to keep in mind while you're filling out the application. We've mentioned the first one before. You want to make sure it's at least 60 minutes in content. You want to make sure it's for educational programming only. You want to make sure that the speakers understand the importance of delivering the educational program and not selling a product or service. Here is the list of the handouts that are available from the webinar. They're also on this link on the CAI website. If you go to camicb.org, you'll click Continuing Education, and there will be a drop down there that says CAI Chapter Resources. All of these are available from the website. All right, so we will follow up with the rest of our questions. We have, what about Common Interest Development Law course? Does that need to be approved since it's a CAI class? The answer to that, Rachel, is it should be submitted to CAMICB. CAI classes, this is a broader, let me just back up a second. This is a broader question. On the application, you will see a section that asks if the program you are presenting has already been approved by a state agency or CAMICB. If it has, all you need to do is submit the notice of approval to the application and submit it. You don't need to send in all the materials again. So for a CAI course like this, what I would do is just fill out the application, submit your whatever flyer or brochure or copy of a web page that you are using to promote the program, and that should be sufficient. And so now we're going to go down to I just need clarification. My chapter is in Florida, so if I submit the information I submit to DBPR and their approval letter for the course, will that be proper information to get the course approved? Karen, the answer to that is yes. You would just need to submit the approval from the Florida agency in order to get approval for that. The next question is, our chapter has 22 on-demand webinars available on our website. We will submit each for approval, but it will take time. We are not going to remove these programs from our website in their interim, assuming they are all approved. Will the credits be okayed retroactively to anyone who registers from today until they are approved? That's a policy question, so I think what I would prefer to do with that is get some more information about that and get back to you. Next question is, can you upload the completed courses to the members page so when we recertify, all of their information is available? We had problems with managers not retaining their records. On the CAMICB website, under continuing education, is the list of approved courses. I'm not sure what to tell you with respect to, we're having managers hang on to their certificates of attendance is an issue, I agree. We have been sort of knocking our heads here trying to figure out a way to provide an app or some other mechanism for them to be able to hang on to their certificates, because we don't have a way for them to upload them to the website and save them. So Larry, I don't have an answer to your question right now, but we're working on it. And certainly if anybody else out there has come up with a solution to this, we really would appreciate you sharing it with us so we can share it with everybody else. We have a CAI national employee or national board member speak. Does that need to be approved? Also, we have Julie Adaman speaking on Friday. Does that need to be submitted as well? Some of Julie's programs have already been approved. I would go to Julie and ask her if the one she's presenting has been approved. If it has, then you would just need to attach that notice of approval to your application and it would be approved. Programs that have national speakers and national board members should also be approved. Just submit the application with a flyer, some sort of attachment to it, web page or whatever, that says this is who the speaker is, this is what the content is, and this is how many hours it will be. see, here's another one. Completed courses, I just answered that. When I got approved for a course, I got sent an email that said I needed to give each attendee a certificate with the educational information on it. We do not currently do this. We keep the records for the attendee for 5 years, but do not print certificates. Are these certificates what the manager is supposed to submit to you? The answer to that is yes. The managers are to submit their certificates of attendance as proof of having attended the course. Now, I will say that when managers reapply, recertify online, the website, again, does not allow them to upload the certificates. So they have to hang on to them. Again, because we are overseen by a third-party accreditation agency, they have the right to audit us, and they have the right to audit the managers who are in our program. So if a manager is audited, they will be asked for those certificates. So it is important that some sort of proof of that manager having attended be given to them for their records. And let me just I want to make sure we have about 5 more minutes left. I want to go through and make sure we've gotten questions. What about trade show attendance credits? I think that depends on the number of educational programs that you have for your trade show. Again, I would go back to that 60 minutes of education is equal to 1 hour of education credit. Currently, all of my PMPD classes are listed along with all the other conference I attend. Couldn't these approved classes be added the same way? I'm not sure. Wendy, I'm a little bit lost as to what the question means. Wendy, do you have an idea?
I can't see the questions. Could you say again?
Sure. Currently, all of my PD classes are listed along with all of the conference I attend. Couldn't these approved classes be added the same way?
I think that all the PMD classes, those are the 202, 203 classes. I believe we accept those seamlessly for approval, unless I'm mistaken. But I know that when I teach the 202 or the 203, if I'm in Florida, as an example, I have a continuing ed form, and that certification record can just be sent in when you renew your CAMICB application.
Okay. All right. Do the certificates have to have the manager's name printed? The answer to that is no. You should have a space on there where they can write in their name. I understand that some attendees walk on. The sample certificate has the information on it that is necessary to meet the policy requirements for the CMCA. You do need to have a spot for their name, but you don't have to have filled it in. Okay, well, I think that's Wendy. Any closing remarks? Anything you can think of that would be helpful to the chapters?
I just want to thank all of you for supporting the CAMICB, and I realize that this initially is going to be more labor, but in the end, it'll become seamless. And we really appreciate your support of our certification program.
Yeah, and I'd like to follow up with Wendy, and I'm on the same page as Wendy. As most of you have already heard me say at the CAI conference, I'm as the person who processes all of the continuing education applications, not just for the chapters. This is it's going to be an adjustment for all of us. Having said that, I'm really excited to know when your programs are, because I can't tell you how many times a manager calls me. There are no programs in my area. I can't get any CE, and I will know when your programs are, and I will be able to share them with them and try to get more attendance at your chapter events. I also get applications from business partners. Okay, I'm approved. Now what? The first thing I tell them to do is reach out to a local chapter. Where is your business? Where do you have offices? Find a local chapter and partner with that chapter to get your program out to managers. So from that side of it, I'm really excited about this, and I look forward to working with everyone. Wendy, I appreciate you taking the time to participate on our webinar today. I really appreciate it. I know you're super duper busy, so thank you. Thank you very much. And I want to thank everybody. I want to thank everybody for attending today. The program will be recorded and it will be posted to the CAMICB website. You will get an email letting you know when that happens. Have a great afternoon, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise.